everybody, whether you're on the East Coast, West Coast, or around the world. This is Coast to Coast. We got all 4 people in the house today. This is, it's been a while. How's it going, everybody?
I almost feel like that the last time this happened was the Hater Show, which I think was 1 year ago today.
A year ago today. Yeah.
Has it been a year ago already?
Yeah.
The Hater Show happened 1 year ago today. It's amazing the difference a day makes.
It's just nice to see Pag's beautiful face. It's so pretty.
I know you missed me. I missed you too, Jay. I tell you, it was a little calmer since you've been gone. I will say that. It's like we don't. There's times when we do raise voices. Yeah, we get heated under some things. But it's good to have you back. I actually missed you.
I missed you
Sometimes
too.
You need some of that little bit of extra oomph, in the show to kind of make everything go here. But,
Amen, brother.
So, but beyond that, it was I was at opening day, home opener yesterday for the Phillies. I tell you, I am getting very frustrated. So, first off, I guess, do we talk about the bats? Do we even mention the bats?
So, sure, why not?
We did talk about it yesterday, but we could certainly come back to it. I'd like to hear your perspective on it.
We touched on it. We didn't talk a whole lot about it. But, I mean, the biggest thing is it's available to everybody. So, I mean, just shut up about it and use the bat if it's that big of a deal to you.
I already wrote the Astros, said, let's get that order, like, muy pronto. So,
besides, I don't know why everybody's like, oh, it was an engineer that figured it out. It's like, do you remember playing wiffle ball with the big red bat? Right? The giant I mean, this dude's an MIT guy. Like, the yellow skinny one was harder to hit the ball than the big red one. This is not rocket science.
But they really didn't increase the size of the bat. I mean, all they did was take that 2.5 barrel dimension, slide it down a little bit more towards where the sweet spot was. That's all.
Well, they did do more than that. Like, just to give the whole idea on the engineering portion of that 2.5 inches is now almost 3 inches, if not a little bit on the more side. They lowered the end of the back, the tip. So now that part is at about 1 3/4 inches to 2 inches. So ultimately what that does is that if you were to hit it off the end of the bat, because a smaller diameter, it's almost like doing a cue shot. Like if you're shooting pool, rather than if it's you're actually hitting the ball. I have a feeling what's going to happen though, and the interesting part on all of this stuff is what's going to happen on the broken bats. What happens when that area winds up getting broken, and what is that going to cause?
Nothing.
I feel
well, it happened last night. It happened last night in the Cubs game with one of their torpedo bats.
And what did it do? It didn't explode?
It doesn't. It breaks like a normal bat would break, but you don't have like the splinter shards that would come off like if you basically get sawed off. So the guy, Nico Horner, took a pitch like off the handle of the bat, and the bat broke down the middle like it typically would, but then it just basically broke into 2 pieces. You didn't have like all the shards that would like fly all over the place. It was literally like the handle stayed in his hand, and then the barrel kind of
but that got hit in the handle. That was like
no, it was like more. It was inside, but it was more towards that part of the barrel that got slid down. So it hit like the very top part of the handle and the bottom part of that fat part of the barrel. So it basically just made it crackle right down the middle of the bat. One part of the bat went to the right, and then the other part stayed in his hand. So it didn't like just shard and splinter out. It just basically split right down the middle.
Yeah, I don't know that's going to be typical. I mean, we saw one, right? So we can only go by that one.
Yeah.
I have to imagine that they have seen this before. I also got to imagine, like, is this something that is this engineering? Is this, for instance, like a pool stick is 8 pieces of wood typically, and sometimes more, like 12 pieces of wood that are fused together and like kind of glued together and pressed and stuff like that with enough pressure, and then smoothed out and stuff like that. Is that how they're engineering these bats, or are they off of 1 piece of wood?
It's 1 piece of wood. It's just a thicker wood that it's a thicker wood that they're using now than what they used in the past. Usually the wood that
it's just the way they sand it down. They're just sanding it down a little bit differently now.
They're getting it from a different part of the country now. too. They used to get the
Well,
wood.
okay, I
from
mean, the wood is still wood.
Pennsylvania.
Is what I'm saying, how they make it from one
Yeah,
piece. They're just shaping it down.
It's a thicker wood that they're getting from somewhere else now. I don't know where they're getting the wood now. Louisville Slugger used to get a lot of their wood from Pennsylvania and up in the Washington area because that's the type of wood that they like to use for their bats. The wood that they're getting in now is not from Pennsylvania. I know that because the trees that they're using now are not in that Pennsylvania. So I don't know where the wood is coming from now. It's just a thicker wood than what they've been using on their previous bats, which allows them to kind of form the bat the way they want it to get formed.
Okay.
Question though, Pax. I know you talked about the size of the barrel being a little bit more than 2.5 inches. When I read the specs on the bats, legal specs on it, it said the biggest part of the bat can only be 2.5. So how are they making it legal when it's a little bit? You're saying it's a little bit more than 2.5.
I mean, it has to just fit, right? Like they approved the bat, so I mean.
I understand they approved it. I was just curious how they said, like a legal bat had to be this specific dimension, but you're saying they can. I guess there's a variance is what they're letting you have, a little bit of a variance, I guess.
Well, I guess let's find out. I don't know all of the exact rules.
I think it was like Rule 3.02 or something like that, if I remember
feel like
the number.
That guy's supposed to know this.
Well,
I do. I feel like she's letting me know right now.
The barrel of the bat, so the very end of the bat, the barrel has to be within a certain range. So the very end of the bat, like the circle part of the barrel, has to be within like 2 3/4 inches and like 2 5/8 inches. But the actual part, kind of where that torpedo bat is thicker now, that can be more than that 2 3/4 inches. It just
2.61 inches in diameter.
Yeah, but just cannot. The end of the bat cannot pass that 2.61, whatever it is. That part has to stay.
That's the number I was missing because when I read the specs, it said 42 inches long, this certain ounce range, and then it said 2.5 on the barrel, and then it said 1 1/4 when they indent the barrel.
Yeah,
it could go more than 1 1/4. That's I guess I didn't see the 2.61. That's why I was
the 2.61 is the biggest the barrel can be, like the circle part of the barrel. That's the biggest the barrel can be. Okay. But that part where the weight is on the torpedo bat, kind of where like the bat expands a little bit and then goes back in a little bit, that can be more than the 2.61. Because Aaron Judge doesn't use the torpedo bat, and his barrel is almost 3 inches because of how big of a bat he has to use. So his barrel generally is a bigger bat because he's such a big human.
Oh, just because of the length of the bat?
Yeah, because he uses a 41-inch bat, but it's like a 41-41. So like the barrel itself is like almost 3 inches, and then it gets down to that 2.61 at the end. He just doesn't use a torpedo bat just because his bat's so big.
Yeah, because if he used a torpedo, it'd be like 5 inches around.
I think they said that Aaron Judge and like 2 other players in baseball are actually not allowed to use the torpedo bat because of how big they would have to make it to fit them.
Okay.
Because I think it's Aaron Judge. I think it was Aaron Judge, Vladimir Guerrero, and one other person they said could not use the torpedo bats because of how big they are. They just would not be able to make the bat sustainable for their strength.
So, but you can't. It's actually very specific. The largest part, the thickest part of the bat, it can't be more than 2.61 inches. So, if that's the thickest part of the bat, like you said, you're saying that it's 3 inches in general.
It's like 2.7. So there's a little bit of a leeway, but that middle part of that barrel.
No, the rule specifically says 2.61. That's actually as the rule reads and sits right now, official MLB. Rule 3.02.
Yep. And the MLB has looked at these bats already, and they're letting it slide for the time being just because the way end of that bat, the barrel part of it, is still like in that 2 5/8 inch range.
I mean, the biggest thing is everybody can use it.
That's
so it's not like everybody was like, oh, the Yankees are cheating. It's like everybody can use the bat. So if you're that hung up on it, go use the bat.
This is very similar to when college baseball changed their metal bats. How they used to use like a straight aluminum Allocore bat, and now they use the aluminum composite bats. The aluminum composite bat is made thicker than the old aluminum bat, so the ball travels farther now with the new aluminum bats. So it's a very similar situation to that, but everyone has access to those.
That's the thing. If everyone has access to it, who cares?
Yeah.
Well, that's what I have. I have the floating technology in my bat, so that actually it's like there's something inside of it in the aluminum bats that's legal. It's actually ASA approved that will it will compress so that if you hit it on the sweet spot, it actually gives it more compression at that time.
I think those are the new composite ones.
Yeah, so it's my composite. It's like an old monster. It's called the Monster DNA, and it was I tell you, out of the package, it was hot bat. So it was like one of those things where everybody wanted to borrow the bat, and I used the 28 at the time.
Mhm.
I'm probably going to use something less next time because I just won't have the ability. I haven't swung a 28-ounce bat in a while, so I'm going to have to switch down to the lower ones, which is really what they're doing anyways for, softball. It's no longer the weight of the bat. It's the bat speed.
And you can tell which players use this torpedo bat and which ones don't based on the sound it makes coming off the ball with the ball coming off the bat. There is a different sound to it, very similar to like the metal bats too, where the old metal bats had that very high pitched ting sound when you hit it. And now you don't even hear the metal anymore when you hit it. It just sounds kind of like a club now. There's no metal sound to it because of that composite inside.
And Brad, Judge is denting cars, and he's using his same old bat. He's not even using the torpedo.
Oh yeah, John Carlos Stanton was the other one that can't use the torpedo bat.
Okay.
He didn't really bat too much with his injuries anyway, so
but those two, they would not be able to make a bat that's sustainable for him just because of the dimensions that they have to follow. The bat would not be able to be supported by those two guys. They would just pretty much snap the bat pretty much every time.
Right, because it's too thin at one side and one end.
Like where they grip the handle, every time they would make solid contact, the handle would just snap off every time.
I'm surprised those
Frankie,
bats have never.
This is the deal, Frankie, because everybody can use it. It's not cheating if everyone can use it. Like, what are we even talking about right now?
The only people that are saying that they are cheating are the fans that don't have these bats yet in their facility, or obviously the Brewers who just got the ever living crap kicked out of them by the Yankees because it was home run derby for the weekend.
Yeah, but who's to say that it wouldn't have been anyway?
It would have been just not at that point. Like Aaron Judge was still going to hit 3 home runs because he hit 3 home runs with a normal bat. Like he was still going to get his 4 home runs over the weekend, but the Yankees may not hit 15 home runs. They might have hit like 9.
I don't even know that was the case. I think that the Brewers pitching just sucks.
They're terrible.
Well, that's true.
I was going to say they were throwing batting practice. Like I think that if they had normal bats, they were still yanking them out.
Yeah, I think the thing is, I guess, because it's rare, and again, I bet you'd be willing to bet that if you look back at that pitcher who threw 3 pitches that wound up to be 3 home runs, that there was something going on where he was tipping.
Well, he was a former Yankee. It was Nestor Cortez. He was on the Yankees last year. The Yankees knew exactly what he was going to throw in that sequence. So they
could have been out there with the little yellow bat and probably out.
Because he was on the Yankees for like 5 or 6 years, and then he goes to Milwaukee as part of that Devin Williams trade over the winter. The Yankees knew exactly what Nestor Cortez was going to throw in that sequence. So literally they just sat on that pitch and waited for it and just smoked it.
Yeah.
All 3.
All 3, yeah. Usually he throws either a 0-0 fastball or a 0-0 changeup. He never throws anything else besides those 2 pitches early in the count. Yankees were just waiting for that fastball and just teed off.
Yeah, so you could have done that with a normal bat. I wouldn't give any credence to the torpedo at that point. Like if you know what the pitch is coming, there's
but it's rare that you have 3 pitches, 3 home runs.
Oh, I agree.
That just doesn't happen. Because ultimately, you still got to hit the ball. You still got to do all that stuff.
To be fair, like they had firsthand knowledge because it used to be their guy. The Astros did it with a trash can. Mm-hmm. So
I see what you're doing there, Bo. I see what you're doing there with the trash can. No, you're fine.
But like Frankie said there too, like Nestor Cortez always throws a first pitch fastball. And typically he's a guy that throws like 93 to 95 in that range. Yeah. His fastball against the Yankees on Friday was around 91. So that's like essentially batting practice to Aaron Judge. Because the home run that Aaron Judge hit was an 87-mile-an-hour fastball. That's like a batting practice pitch that he sees every day.
Man, that's a Jamie Moyer fastball right there.
Like his velocity was
That's fast for Jamie Moyer. Moyer was in the 75.
That's the top end of his range for sure.
Yeah. Like that's like his fastball was about 5 miles per hour slower than what it typically was in his first start. So they were seeing basically batting practice speed fastballs. So that's pretty much 85, 86. All right, there we go.
Is there still a lot of players using that axe handle bat?
Interestingly enough, that's what I spoke about yesterday. Like when I was talking to people about the bats, because people were asking me about it, and I'm like, I used to have the axe handle bats. I don't understand it's any different than that. It's
Right.
just all it was is that it gave you a different feel for it. It was just a little oblong in the handle part, so that it gave you the feel of an axe. Truth of the matter is that they never really took off at baseball. It was more for softball.
Okay.
Softball
And I
games.
think now those players have those thumb guards now, like that thing that they slide over the thumb in their batting glove, which essentially is what the axe handle was for because it protected your thumb. So now if players are just going to slide that thing over their batting glove, they don't need the axe handle anymore.
That's interesting. Okay.
So, but yeah, I mean, ultimately, it's I keep wondering, like, yeah, MLB I guess hasn't needed to officially say anything about anything with these bats.
No.
And as long as they are acceptable, I happen to know the guy who goes by the Bat King, and he makes a lot of the bats. I think it's something in the neighborhood of like 70% of the bats for Major League Baseball is made up in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania.
Yep.
By Victus is the name of the bat company, and he goes by the Bat King. And I'm going to see if he's got some time, hopefully within the next week or so. Maybe we can get him on here to talk about really what's going on and see what the actual difference is in the physics of it all. That's what I'm interested in. I want to know what the real physics is. It like because when the ball hits that area, is the compression of the wood because it's tapered so severely on the one end and not as severe on the other? Is the compression weighted a little bit differently? Is it like that's what I'm interested in. I want to know why. Is it making a difference at creating a difference of we'll say 15 to 20 feet, which could be the difference between a home run and not?
I think it's just making the sweet spot bigger. So instead of having like a 3.5, 4-inch spot where you pretty much have to square up a baseball, now you have like a 10-inch spot. So now you have more spot to square.
See, but even that's crazy. Like thinking about you have 10 inches on the bat that's now considered a sweet spot. It probably is not that big.
No, it's probably like going from 3 inches essentially to 6 inches. But still, you're doubling what your sweet spot was. So now instead of having basically the width of one baseball to square it up, you're essentially getting the width of two baseballs to square it up.
And Frankie, no, we're not going to talk about it because weirdos are weirdos.
Right.
Yeah, he didn't have anything else to chew on, so he chewed on tape. It's like some people like eating paper. I don't understand it.
Wilson Contreras.
Yeah, like it is what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
we don't need to discuss anything about it. It's just that's that.
I mean, that was the discussion. He's weird.
That's what happens when you get your bell rung a couple times behind home plate. You start acting a little differently.
Wow.
So, but anyways, I just like I said, I'm interested to see if that really is because, like I said, my expectation is that it's probably 6 or 7 inches now rather than 4 inches.
Yeah.
And is that really making that big of a difference? Obviously, it would because anytime you get the bat on the ball, you're doing that. But these bats are out there. They're not. This isn't like there's most of the players. If you wanted, I know that yesterday that Bohm was using one of those torpedo bats, and John Kruk was talking about how, yeah, I mean, he can understand the idea on why you'd want to use it. The truth of the matter is that if you don't have a plan going up to the plate, you're still going to do the same thing that you've done all the time, and that's go first pitch swinging when the last two guys have been walked.
Yep.
So frustrating. Yeah. So frustrating. Angers me. Like, come on.
What's going to be interesting with these bats, and obviously it's not going to be interesting because it's going to be used, but these bats are going to be used, I think, in the home run derby. Like from now on, like this is going to be like your home run derby bat, where it's like everybody gets a torpedo bat, you just go out there and just wail on them.
Well, you know what? For a home run derby, To be honest, they should use aluminum bats.
I agree 100%. They should use aluminum mats. Just go out there and just wail on it as far as you can.
Let's see how far. Let's see how far can somebody hit it out of a stadium. Can somebody hit that ball 620 feet with an aluminum bat?
I'd watch that.
That would be kind of cool, right?
That would be really aluminum bat on that left field porch. You know, a lot of the smaller parks. You know, now I call it Dayton or whatever used to be Minute Maid. But those shorter porches, yeah, you're definitely hitting them things.
If that was the case, if you know, in that case, you may have to put the netting further around. You know what I mean? Because you don't want line drive home runs to come right at those people sitting at 330. You know what I mean? It's like that's going to kill somebody.
Bring your glove,
right?
or a really good face mask, like a catcher's mask.
Or if you wanted to do something too, you can make it more entertaining. Like you do the home run derby, just like the standard procedure that it is now. But then you could have like a separate competition for like the ones that get eliminated with the metal bat, and basically do like the longest home run. And they each get like 3 swings, and whoever can just tee off and hit it the farthest wins.
Yeah, but the problem is like if you know, now you're guessing. You're going by the trajectory and what it was projected at, and you know the velocity. And
Frankie, I think it would be an actual torpedo at that point.
It would be.
God, aluminum torpedo bat, that would be amazing to see, especially at the college level.
Just I don't think we need it. Especially college baseball has not been very exciting to me at all lately. Like usually it's got something going on and it doesn't have anything.
Well, I think the weather's played a factor in it, because you look at how many games the last 2 weeks have either been rained out or snowed out. Like these teams typically right now are getting in the middle of conference play where they start to kind of get set for that postseason push. A lot of these teams are still like 2 weeks behind because they lost so many games early in the year, and now they're losing so many games right now.
And
the quality of I watch a lot of college baseball, but the quality of play has been very down for this time of the year as opposed to years past, because they're losing a lot of games that they typically would be able to build up their reps to get into conference play. They're losing a lot of those games because of weather.
And speaking of which, because I now I got to ask this question, since you watch a little bit more college baseball than I do, and I don't really watch a lot, but with Texas Tech Kentucky game, the 4:30 inning rule.
Yep.
Like, now you can't start an inning. What? Go into a little bit more detail on that. I watched that video 7 or 8 times. I only got to see it on Instagram, and I'm like,
it's a rule for every sport at Kentucky, whether it's football, whether it's softball, basketball, soccer, baseball. Whatever, it's something at the university that for whatever reason, a new inning in baseball or softball cannot start after 3:30 p.m. Eastern.
That is weird.
So Texas A&M was down 10-6, bottom of the 8th inning.
10-5.
10-5, bottom of the 8th inning, and it was 4:27. So Kentucky just stalled to wait till 4:30, so then the game ended in 8 innings instead of having to go into the 9th.
Actually, they did go the inning.
Yeah.
They did go the half the inning.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there's rules, like even in basketball, like anytime Kentucky has like an afternoon game, that tip-off has to happen before 3:30. It cannot happen after 3:30 for whatever rule that university has.
That is
it's a very weird rule. I think they're the only school that has it, but they have some sort of rule that's anything that's 3:30, it has to happen before 3:30. You can't start a game or an inning or anything after that 3:30 threshold. Like if the inning's going on and after 3:30, that's one thing, but you just cannot start something new after that 3:30 threshold.
That's such a bizarre rule.
That is bizarre.
And just so that anybody who's watched that video on Instagram, and it's 4:30, not 3:30.
Well, yeah, like 4:30 Eastern, yeah.
Yeah. So, but it's, I mean, it was odd.
And that's why Texas A&M was frustrated, because they're not used to that. They're an hour behind Kentucky time, so they have no idea what the hell is going on. They're just sitting there like, why are we stalling? Like, what are we doing?
Well, and it also keeps them from being able to try and come back.
Yeah, and there's like pitch clock violations.
Rule to get out of having to pitch that last inning, which potentially could have given them the opportunity to come back.
And I think if I remember right too, I think the pitcher got 2 straight pitch clock violations because he got to within like 429. You're just like, screw it, I'll just take 2 pitch clock violations. And,
Well, and then they did a meeting on the mound. And,
yeah,
I
like
mean,
he knew what he was doing, and Texas A&M was just getting pissed.
yeah,
So
and they should have. They should have got mad.
correct. The pitch clock violation actually would act as a pitch, so it wouldn't matter. But they were calling weirdo timeouts. They're like over there, and then you could tell that they're all like kind of joking on the mound and stuff like that. And then it was just an odd thing, and I didn't know enough about it to understand why it was happening. I know that ultimately they did finish that inning.
Yep.
And then that was the end of it. It was like, okay, they got 1, 2, 3. It was just, but I found it just kind of funny to me. It was like, I don't know this rule. I don't know why this is. And is this it's only a Kentucky thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and it's funny because, they ultimately get out of the inning and it doesn't matter. But after the meeting on the mound and stuff, that pitcher yanked one and it went deep to the warning track. Guy caught it right at the wall. Imagine had that actually gone out and they still couldn't start the next inning, where you're like, oh no, like we're starting to come back in this. And just a weird rule to manipulate for sure.
I'm about to say that definitely sounds like a rule that's designed to help them for sure.
Well, no, I mean, it could hurt you too.
The actual
yeah.
rule is called the Kentucky 430 rule. And it was a rule that actually went into the state Senate and got approved by state senators, basically related to school transportation and other related health access and nutritional developmental programs throughout the university, that anything that happens prior to 4:30 cannot be started as anew.
So that sounds like that baseball or whatever, the sports got lumped into a bunch of other stuff that was going on in Kentucky. They just got lumped in with that.
Yep, so now it's called the Kentucky 430 rule.
So, which is also interesting because ultimately, think about this in the opposite direction. That Texas Tech is up 10-6, and the pitcher goes out there and he sees that it's 427, and he goes out there, and then they're like, "Nope, I'm going to do a pitching change before the first pitch even gets thrown."
Yeah.
Now you got 2 minutes and 20 seconds, and then as he's out there, he's like, "Ooh, I tweaked something," and next thing
I am a little bit wrong on that. It isn't actually now a rule in the SEC in general.
Yeah, that's what Steve.
It's a getaway travel curfew rule, also known as the Kentucky 430 rule, because Kentucky is the one that implemented it. The rule states that no new inning can be started after 4:30 p.m. locally on the final day of a series on Sunday, because all teams must be in the bus traveling by 5 p.m.
Now that's starting to make a little bit more sense. I see where they're going with that. I do.
So that means that there's feasibly ties in college baseball at that point.
There can be ties if the game is tied and you're approaching that 4:30 rule, yes. But Kentucky was the one that implemented it first.
I'm liking this rule less and less the more we talk about it.
Yeah, Kentucky was the one that implemented it first, which is why it's called the Kentucky 430 rule. But then the SEC got on board and basically said any baseball, softball, or any travel day on a Sunday, everything has to be completed by 4:30 p.m. Eastern, because that is the travel curfew window.
Well, and Scott, not for nothing, usually, I mean, so they don't have a pitch clock in college, and ultimately that's what's happening, is that you're having 3.5-hour games.
Well, no, Scott's usually Sunday games start at 12 to avoid this rule.
I figure 1 o'clock.
They had a 2-hour rain delay. That's why this rule came into play on Sundays, because they had a 2-hour rain delay and it started 2 hours late. It's a conference game, and all conference games in college baseball are played Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So if you don't make this game up, you have to figure out how you're going to make it up later in the season when all your conference series are 3-game series over the weekend. So it's one of those.
That only applies. That 4:30 rule only applies to Sunday games, or still all 3 games.
It's only Sunday games because it's getaway day.
Right. So Friday and Saturday that rule isn't in effect. It's only on the Sunday games. Well, it makes sense because when they have to go back to school, I mean, I understand. I don't like it, but I understand the
Yeah.
rule.
But that was the issue on Sundays because their game started 2 hours
So
later.
there's 2 hours student athletes. So I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah, the student part's both. Yeah, and yeah, I mean, Scott, even if they would have started at 11, that's not going to combat the
2 hour rain delay.
delay.
Not starting
Right?
at
Like
1.
rain happens when rain happens. So I suppose there's that. Obviously, I hate this because if you guys all know I hate ties in general. So as soon as that becomes an option on the table, I'm already not a happy camper. Like I either want to win or lose this tie stuff. Like, what are we doing?
I think it's only happened 3 times since the SEC's adopted this rule as a whole that a game has ended in a tie. And usually,
doesn't hockey have a lot of ties in it though? Speaking of, since we're talking about ties, doesn't hockey sometimes have ties in it? And I think even soccer too sometimes, right?
Soccer
does, yeah. But that's why I don't watch soccer either. Yeah. You got flopping and ties, like it's a waste of my time.
because hockey and soccer use a point system. They go where you get soccer, you get 3 points for a win, 1 point for a tie. Hockey, you get 2 points for a win, 1 point for a tie. So you're not actually counting wins and losses as
an
much.
Overtime win is 2 points, and overtime loss is 1 point.
Yeah.
So it's a
Yeah.
3-point game.
You're not counting wins and losses as much as every other sport. If you would strictly go just based off of wins and losses, then hockey would not have ties either. With soccer, it would be like, nope, you won, you lost, you won, you lost.
Okay.
So,
Which I would prefer. So you want to do
Yeah, I
is
guess
sit
you
there and
would.
watch an 80-minute game that ends in a 0-0.
yeah, that gets frustrating sometimes. Sitting around just feeling, yeah, this is them kicking the ball, volleying the ball back and forth, and not really getting many shots on goal or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, if I want to watch somebody struggle to score for a couple of hours, I'll take my friends to the bar. Like, there's no, there is no reason to sit there and watch TV.
That's an old joke. That is an old joke.
It is an old joke.
I mean, I do like
Still
hockey
relevant.
because I like the physicality of hockey. I like seeing them beat up, but I don't like the fact that it is a slower style of scoring. But I like the physicality of hockey. I do like the boxing.
Yeah, they're at least fun.
Yeah.
Like hockey's at least fun to watch. Yeah, for me, soccer, it's just a lot of running. Like that's just.
If you like cardio, I guess.
Yeah, I like the action of hockey. At least is interesting. Plus, it's more contained, right? So it's a tighter thing. When you're watching soccer, I mean, it can be just a lot of open field running, especially if the passing isn't crisp. It can just be kind of hanging out in the middle of the field a lot.
Did you guys see that fight on the Timberwolves and Pistons the other day?
Oh, I sure did.
Again, I saw the clip on that, and
the Timberwolves video staff is in hot water right now.
Why?
Really?
Look at the photo I just put in the group chat.
Sorry for everybody watching. You don't get the group chat.
It's supposed to say ejected, not what they put on the top.
Oh man, he put in the group chat that I'm not a part of.
And that actually showed up on the scoreboard at the arena.
Perfect.
It's supposed to say ejected, not what it says.
As an unsigned majority that I didn't make this group chat, I'm gonna speak for the audience. What the hell does it look like? Hold it up
Instead of saying ejected and then the names of the people that got ejected, it says ejaculated.
Hey, you know what?
Oh,
It'll get you thrown out of a stadium too. So.
Oh wow!
So that went up on the big video board in the arena where it said ejaculated, and then the players got kicked out.
Wow, yeah, that guy doesn't have a job anymore. He's probably
predictive text will get you sometimes. Just don't give him a high five on the way out.
I want to know why it said
you're gonna
predictive
kill him
text to
today,
do that.
man. How many more plays on that can we do?
And I tell you, it's like I said, to even talk a little bit further about that fight, I was excited about Dante. I mean, Dante is you can't mess with Dante. Dante is going to mess you up. He goes out for blood. So don't be like trying to think that he's just you're gonna be able to push around the white boy. You know what I mean? Because that's what I feel like sometimes happens, and he winds up getting his back up, and they miss him on the Knicks in a big way. because they don't have any heart on the Knicks. That all their heart went to Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I care about.
I just thought it was
basketball at all.
interesting that even the dang coaches were getting into it. I mean, you don't really see the coaches get into it very often.
So, but speaking of coaches and not getting into it, the Flyers fired their coach a little while ago, a couple days ago. Yeah, and they're talking about Rick Tocchet becoming the next coach. No. So there's just my say.
Yes.
No, I do not want Rick Tocchet as my head coach. I know that you guys don't know a lot about hockey, so I can really kind of just talk about this. I know that Mr. UFL is back, and I'll be paying just about as much attention to that as golf. But
yeah, I mean my Kraken gave up on the season about a month and a half ago, and started getting players out of the building, and basically have lost just about every game since then.
Well, yeah, because I mean that's what you want to start to do. You want to try to get the chance a better percentage to get the number one pick. That's how the NHL works, and it doesn't matter how close you get because they're still going to cheat for Chicago. Chicago will be the one that get the Blackhawks because they're original six and they suck really bad.
Yep.
They won't even help out Detroit. It's like they'll only help out Chicago, which makes no sense to me whatsoever. I feel like Gary Bettman must have his some type of concubine over there that they keep under wraps so that anytime he wants to try to get some, he goes to Chicago. But I mean, I get so angry and frustrated with the way that the NHL is run. Ultimately, I miss hockey. I really do miss hockey. And it's much better when Philadelphia is in the mix. And I think that they really need to make a turn and brute up the sport a little bit. They got to brute it up a little bit. I understand that, this fighting is wrong. No, it's not wrong. People box, people MMA all the time. You know what I mean? Let's, fighting is just a 5-minute penalty. They do it in lacrosse too, but in lacrosse now, in Major League Lacrosse, if you fight and you get hurt, you don't get any insurance. That's how they stop you from fighting, because you don't get covered. You got to cover your own medical expenses if you get hurt.
Yeah,
after fighting.
I mean,
but
it's actually kind of a smart way to go about it.
Agreed. But I mean, it stopped fights from happening all the time.
Yeah.
But
did you hear anything about Houston? I guess there's an ownership group possibly bringing NHL to Houston. I don't know if that's.
Yes, that's
I read
a real thing.
that is the discussions if the NHL expands to 34.
Yeah, because I thought I saw something about that, and I was telling my friend the other day. I said I think Houston's going to get a damn NHL franchise.
34, not 32.
Yeah, it's 32 right now. No, it's 32 right now. The only way that they would that Houston would get one is if they would expand, because Utah got the Phoenix relocation. But as part of that agreement, Phoenix was guaranteed that they would be able to get a franchise back in Phoenix if NHL expands. So then you're essentially looking at.
Not that anybody ever went to those games ever.
They did for 1 year when the Coyotes had Wayne Gretzky as their GM, and they finished, I think, second or third in the Western Conference for the regular season. That was the only time that people ever showed up.
I mean, if we end up with a strike, NHL viewership should go up, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but the strike is not coming until next year.
Yeah,
Well, I mean,
that's what I mean. Well, this season's almost over, so we're already kind of looking at next year.
And NHL has already signed their biggest TV deal in NHL history yesterday, even though it's signed for Canada, but it's still like a 12-year, $5 billion contract deal with TSN.
There you go.
Yeah, but it's interesting how far the Kraken have come. Because I remember when Vegas won the championship, Dallas and the Kraken were going at it pretty hard. So I almost thought Dallas, it was going to be the Kraken going against Vegas during that season.
Had a real shot at it. And then they were ahead of schedule though. Like they were playing better than I think their team was set up. They just out hustled people. Like they played a backyard kind of hockey, which great, right? But unfortunately, the team is not the same team anymore.
Right.
Well, and
right.
the thing that I think really hurt the Kraken was who they brought in as their first head coach. And no disrespect to that coach, because he also was a Flyers head coach for a few years, but he was known for what he did in college. Like, he was a terrific college head coach at the University of North Dakota. If you have an expansion NHL team, you need to bring in an NHL coach who's coached like not just 4 or 5 years, like an NHL coach who's been there and done that for 10 or 15 years, who knows how to build up an NHL roster and knows that this is what it takes to build like sustained success, versus the coach that Seattle hired. He had one good year in Philadelphia, but he was a great college coach. He was never in a situation where he was going to an expansion team and pretty much had to build everything from the ground up.
And listen, Hackstall was not a very good coach as far
Not
as
in the
I was
NHL. Yeah,
concerned.
not in the NHL. He wasn't
Not
in
in the
college.
NHL.
College, he was a great coach.
Yeah, and that was part of the issues that I saw. It was just like, geez, I couldn't stand him, and I know that that was why Hextall got fired. Ultimately, he was, it was just like, hey, you gotta give a little bit. Like he's obviously not working out, and Hextall went to the wood chip with him, and well, then they both got cut.
I think a lot of the issues where he tried to coach both the Flyers and the Kraken like it was a college team, because that's kind of what he was familiar with. Like, he didn't adjust to what the NHL coaching life was. He came into the NHL as a very successful college coach, and I think he started to continue to coach like that as opposed to coaching the way you need to coach in the NHL.
Well, I hear you. So as I think about this, and we think about college coaches, I was maybe interested in seeing if we could get the Denver coach, thinking that he might be worthwhile to have.
Denver Pioneers.
Yeah, the college coach, that he actually plays a pro style, and he has a lot of his players actually go pro and don't have to go into the AHL, or only have to spend one season in the AHL to get their speed up. Most of them can go right to there, which makes me think that would be a much better choice than Rick Tocchet. Not against Rick Tocchet. I have nothing against Rick Tocchet. I remember him as a Flyer. I remember the fact that he was the bookie of the NHL and of the Stars for a long time. You know what I mean? That's what, I kind of remember that. But
yeah, and the thing with David Carlo too, who's the Denver hockey coach, he's only 35. So I mean, if you're bringing him in, chances are you're going to have him for the long haul as long as he shows success. But the guy's 115-1 and 23 as a head coach.
115.
115, no, 115, 51, and 23 as a head coach.
51. Okay.
That is amazing.
Wow, 23 guys and one.
But when leading after the second period, he's 66, 3, and 14.
Wow.
Damn. So when they have the lead after the second period, they pretty much finish it.
That's impressive.
That is impressive. Wow. Okay.
Bill Parcells is going into the Patriots Hall of Fame. Really?
Okay.
Wow. Why?
That's
he got him to a Super Bowl with Drew Bledsoe, and didn't he draft Tom Brady? Because wasn't Tom Brady drafted his last year in New England before Belichick got there?
No. Couldn't have been that case, because he was the coach of the Jets.
Yeah.
Oh no, Pete Carroll. No, who was the coach of New England then?
Pete Carroll coached New England, failed, and then went back to college, and then came back.
Then it would have been Pete Carroll, yeah. But Bill Parcells got him to that Super Bowl with Drew Bledsoe, and they lost to the Packers.
Belichick drafted him. I think it was Belichick's first draft, actually.
I mean, he was a good coach with New England. He didn't have like the success that you would thought he would have, but he was still a good coach with New England. Like, they were consistently making the playoffs, or at least consistently getting around that point. They made the Super Bowl. They made a couple more divisional rounds. I think one more AFC Championship game.
There you go, Scott. Quick opinion. Just a quick opinion from you. Weighs more in the Super Bowls that the Patriots won, Belichick or Brady?
Mm.
I mean, they needed each other.
Early on, I think Belichick weighs more, but the later part of Brady's career, I think Brady weighs more.
Yes, when, but you hear my dog.
And actually, I think Belichick weighs a lot more, especially you're saying at the end of the career. And I think that's absolutely not true. I think that, that 13-3 game was all won by Belichick.
That one, yeah, but like when you look at the first few Super Bowls where they basically won on an Adam Vinatieri field goal pretty much every time, like Belichick put Brady in positions to be successful and in positions where Brady wouldn't fail. Like those first few Super Bowls that Brady won, I give Belichick more credit on those because he put his quarterback and his team in a position to be successful, not as a position to fail. Versus the end of Brady's career, Belichick kind of took the training wheels off, obviously. And he's like, just go do your thing, Brady. If I need to do something, I'll coach up the defense like in that 13-3 Super Bowl.
Well, yeah, those first ones, the defense was the key to those. Brady didn't become Brady until later.
Yeah.
It's always later.
Hey, did you see where the NFL owners, I saw they okayed the kickoff, overtime, and replay rule changes, and it looks like they are going to be banning or possibly they're going to be voting on the tush-push ban, I guess, today.
No.
That's has been delayed.
Yeah, that's tabled. They had 16.
Oh, they tabled it. Okay.
Yeah, they had 16 of the owners vote to get rid of it. They needed 8 more to actually have that take effect.
Yep.
So they are tabling that to an unknown time in the future.
It will be during the regular season is what I heard this morning. They can vote on it during the regular season once they see, I guess, how it pans out early in the season. I don't know what the week is. I don't know what the week is.
I would bet that probably doesn't happen. I'm going to go with you're probably still going to have the tush push this year.
Yeah, I agree.
Which again, it's
why are they tabling it? Are they tabling it because they felt like they didn't think they could get? Yeah.
No, they didn't get enough votes. They needed the 24 votes. They got 16. So they needed 8 more owners to say that they didn't want it. So by tabling it, they can bring it back to the table next year and re-vote.
That's what I'm saying. They can go talk to people and see if they can get it. Yeah. It gives them time.
Well, they're going to see if people care, right?
Yeah.
And maybe it'll depend on the success of it this year.
Yeah.
But, the biggest thing for me is be better on defense first and second down, and then third down doesn't come down to the tush push. So, I mean, just get better at your job.
Mm-hmm.
Simple
Pretty
as that.
much. Like, go grab that 450-pound defensive tackle.
You get rid of a rule.
Yeah. I don't know. Baseball did. They got rid of the shift because the Astros are pretty good at it. They got rid of it.
Yeah, I mean, the shift was weird, but the biggest thing is that was another one where it's like, look, if you don't like the shift, learn how to hit to a different part of the field.
Absolutely. That's what I said. Learn to hit
be better at hitting.
What Scott said right there, he's surprised that the Packers were the team to nominate. No, I'm not. The Packers lost on a tush push several times to the Eagles before.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised at all that they were the ones who were like, no, I don't want this.
Yeah, I'm about to say. They're the ones you would expect to be the ones.
Actually, they were one of the ones that stopped them.
Yeah, but they've also lost on the tush push too before. Like I think they're just like, no, we don't want that no more.
Yeah,
No.
I don't know. Again, getting rid of rules because you can't figure out how to beat them is dumb, right? Because you have the ability to use those same rules, similar to the torpedo bat. Like if it was only the Yankees had the bat, sure, okay, I get it. But if everybody has the opportunity to use it, then figure out how to use it. I mean,
right.
Just because another team found a way to use the rules to get a competitive advantage, that's what you're supposed to do. That just means they're smarter than you. You don't get rid of the rule because of it. Just get better at your job.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I mean, if it's a legal play and there's nothing in the rule book to say you can't do it, you're right. Get better at your job because it's a legal play. Deal with it. And I don't mean.
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, that's the thing. So I don't know. The one that you knew was going to pass, that was like the most slam dunk rule change ever, was the overtime rule, going to 15, a full length quarter, 15 minutes, and everybody gets to possess the ball. That one was easily the rule that you knew was going to go through.
And I'm fine with that because
that should have been a thing.
It should have been a thing
If
because
we're
like,
going to let everybody have the ball anyway, and it wasn't sudden death. Make it a full quarter.
yeah, because
Because
especially
that was the KC rule, basically,
Yeah.
where they barbecued the whole quarter. And so, yeah, make it a full length quarter
And
because you're not
because
going
then
to
it
have a drive that's 15 minutes.
and it takes the kickoff return for a touchdown out of the equation now. Where if you return the
Exactly.
opening kickoff in overtime for a touchdown, game's over.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's that was a rule that you knew was going to be the easiest rule to pass.
How does that? My question is, I didn't look too much into it. How does that work then? Like, if the first play in overtime, you get intercepted for a pick six, does the team that got intercepted get another chance with the ball then, or is the game over?
No. That's a defensive score. That'd be it.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
that'd be it.
Okay, that's the one part I wasn't sure on because I wasn't sure because they said that both teams they wanted to touch the ball, but I wasn't sure if a pick.
And both teams did in that regard.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah,
'Cause you
yeah,
started
Chad. My
already-
cow went left on me. Cow turned
that would
left.
be like you started with the ball and you punted, and the other team took it in. Like that's how it would be viewed. So you had the possession. You just happened to be bad at football in overtime.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess
The
I figured that was the Eagles one that they said, right? That said, okay, yeah, we're gonna make
yeah.
everything.
Well, and then the one from the Lions, this one seemed like it had a chance to pass, which is the illegal contact on defense, where the only thing that was really changing was getting rid of the automatic first down.
Yeah.
And it felt like that one probably had an actual shot. But, I guess where that one comes into play, which is probably why it didn't pass, is if somebody's getting torched and they grab a hold of you, right? Illegal contact, it not, instead of it being a touchdown because they, got torched, now you also don't even get the first down. So then all of a sudden you'd probably end up with some illegal holding downfield quite a few times because they know it doesn't automatically become a first down. But I mean, generally the yardage would give you the first down anyway. But if it was 3rd and long and your guy was going to get torched and you hold and it doesn't become the first down, it's actually better for the defense to hold in that situation. Mm-hmm. So I kind of get why it didn't pass.
Well, but I think that there's ways around that too. I mean, they didn't have to, like, what's the difference between defensive holding and,
illegal contact and
and exactly. I think I kind of agree with defensive holding. Like if you hold them up and you disrupted the timing route in comparison to a straight out pass interference.
Yep.
That's the difference. And I think that's what they're probably having the hardest time trying to figure out. Like, how do you manage that?
Well, I mean, it's because the ball isn't in the air yet, right? Because if it's illegal contact, but the ball's on the way, that's pass interference.
Yeah.
But if the ball isn't delivered yet, then it's illegal contact or defensive holding, right? But in a scenario where it could be 3rd and long and that corner or safety is getting ran by, they reach out and hold you. You don't get the first down in that scenario. Yeah. That could actually be a good defensive play, a good defensive penalty.
I think the hardest part of getting this rule passed is the inconsistency when it comes to officiating, because you have some crews that are willing to let defensive backs and wide receivers play a lot more handsy than other crews.
Sure.
So if you're going to let certain players be a lot more handsy, certain players be a lot more physical, where that 5-yard window might potentially be a 7-yard window. Or then you might have that one officiating crew where that 5-yard window is now a 3-yard window because they call it a lot tighter. It's going to be very hard to be like illegal contact, gets rid of the automatic first down, because you need the overall consistency where every officiating crew pretty much calls it the same.
So I think that's where the other rule that did come in,
the
comes in, is the extended replay that you can evaluate penalties.
Yep.
Right.
And so we'll see what the extent of that is. But yeah, I mean, them being able to take a look at some of these penalties would actually be great, especially when you think of some of the, roughing the passer calls that were called this last year that absolutely weren't. But
or really the face masks.
Yes.
Sure.
Lots of face
lot of
masks.
phantom
that did
face
not get
masks.
called.
And there's
Yeah.
also phantom face masks that were called based on how the players
exactly.
had spun, but they didn't even get close to the face mask.
Yeah. So, I mean, I do like that they're expanding that a little bit just because the officiating has been wildly inconsistent.
Yeah.
So if we can add some balance to that, I think that's great.
The other rule that I'm surprised that got as many votes as it did was the other rule that the Lions brought to the table, where the teams with the highest record in the playoffs would get a home game regardless if you win your division or not. That came one vote from being approved.
Yeah, I'm glad that didn't.
That one I was surprised got as much momentum for it. They had 23 of the 24 votes they needed to get that one approved.
Yeah, I look at it as you want a home game, win your division. Like it's right after you get out of that round, it's best record anyway.
Yeah.
So just because you don't get it in the wild card round, if you have the best record the next week, it's a home game for you. So I don't really know why people are complaining. Like, win your division if you want a home game. Simple as that. Win more games. I don't feel bad for you.
Well, no, it wouldn't be best record in that second round, because if your division winner goes 13-4, is the 1 seed, and then the number 2 seed is 11-5, and then the number 5 seed is 12-5, but they got second place. That 12-5 team would not get a home game over that number 2 seed. The top 2 seeds would still have the home game because they are the division winners. The only way the wild card teams get that home game is if they are the only teams left.
First off, hold on, stop it. Time out. There's only one team that gets the bye. So there's no more 2 second teams.
Yeah, but if the number 2 seed is 11-6, but they won their division at 11-6.
Had Minnesota won the game, they would have had to
go to Philly.
Come to Philly, and they would have had a worse record. So it wouldn't have mattered.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, the only way that a 5, 6, or 7 seed could get a home playoff game would be in the NFC Championship game. They wouldn't be able to get it in that wild card in the divisional round, because the number 1 overall seed would have one of those home games, and then if the 2 seed wins, the 2 seed would get that other home game. So you could have a 11-6 2 seed being the home team against a 12-5 5 seed. That's kind of why they wanted to get that rule out there, just because 12. Like, I agree, if you don't win your division, you shouldn't be given the benefit of the doubt. But the fact that 23 votes came with that, there's a lot of owners, I think, that are starting to be like, well, you should get a home game if you have the better record.
That may change when it comes to the 18.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a feeling that that's still going to not. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe if it goes to 18 games, because now you have so many other games that are going to have to weigh more.
Yeah.
I could see the playoffs gaining another team, too, if you go to 18 games and then just doing away with that first round bye and just doing a standard 1-8, 2-7, 3-6, 4-5.
That's a tough one. One.
We don't need to water down the playoffs. Like,
No, we don't, but it's the NFL is all about this, and if they can get those 2 extra playoff games in that playoff weekend for money, they're going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, but I don't want it to be like basketball where the last team in is trash.
like my Chicago Bulls, who are going to be 36-46, and we're going to get the 10 seed and make the play.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's terrible. I don't want to see that happen. That being said, we got to get out of here. We're at the top of the hour. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe. If you're watching on Roku, stay tuned for the next hour. Otherwise, we are out of here for today. See y'all tomorrow.
Later, guys.
Introducing National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk programming that you can access 24/7. For the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with Mac and Jack covering all the weekend sports action. Then pour a cup and enjoy all the sports you can drink on the Coffee and Sports Podcast. At midday, talk sports from east to west on the Coast to Coast Podcast. Followed at night by some hot girl talk with Prim and Proper Sports featuring Sonia Pearson. Talk boxing on the Gloved Fist. Yankee fans tune in for Start Spreading the News. And there's more on the College Sports Huddle and Sports Scope with Robert Butler. There are 20 podcasts in all and 70 weekly shows giving us a 3.4-star viewer rating. To find us on Roku TV, search for National Streaming Sports on the Roku search bar. Click on the logo and you're in. National Streaming Sports,